Good evening and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's March 12, 2020, and we're underway at 7 p.m. We'll start our agenda tonight with the invocation, and Council Member Massey will be doing the invocation for us tonight, and then we'll have the pledges of allegiance to the American and Texas flag. So if you'd please stand for the invocation and pledges.
Dear Lord, as the world continues in turmoil over a new strain of virus, let us remember that you are in control and we need not fear. As says 2 Timothy 1:7, you did not give us the spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of self-discipline. Let us be mindful of that and ever grateful for your care. Today I thank you for the medical researchers who are working around the clock for a vaccine to stop this pandemic, and for our president, who is doing everything in his power to contain and control not only the virus, but the fear and panic that has gripped so many around the world. We ask for your continued blessings on our staff, elected officials, and fire and police forces. Especially watch over our fire and police department employees who put their lives in danger for others daily. Tonight I ask for wisdom as we deliberate during our meeting. Help us to make the right decisions for our community with courtesy and consideration. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible. Okay, next up on the agenda, we have a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing at 7:02. This public hearing is to give all interested persons the right to appear and be heard on a request by Versatera Development for a change in zoning from Overlay District B3 Overlay to Single Family Residential District R1 for 9.511 acres, described as Bandera Oak Subdivision, Block 2, Lot 7, and 901, Bear Appraisal District, property ID numbers 1308636 and 1308638, generally located behind 12510 Bandera Road, Helotes, Texas, 78023. And we had no one sign up to speak on this public hearing, so I will close it at 7:03. Next up, we have our open session, or citizens to be heard, and we have several people who have signed up tonight to speak to the council, and would remind you to speak to the council, not the audience, and you'll have 3 minutes from the time you give your name and address when you get to the podium, and there'll be a timer up there, as you see on the screen, and we ask you to limit your remarks to 3 minutes, and if you're not finished, I'll ask you to sit down, and that's just so we can speed the meeting up. We're not trying to cut you short, but that's just the rules we've had in place for many, many years. So we'll start with, is it Mano Avila? Yes. Yes, sir. If you would come to the podium and adjust the microphone to your height, state your name and address, and then the time will start, and you have 3 minutes, and we appreciate you being here.
Good evening. My name is Mano Avila. My address is 11434 Wickwild in the Beverly Hills subdivision. My biggest reason for being here is because my biggest concern of the new plat that was made out that this property was evidently, going to be used for building some new homes. Now, I'm not sure of the amount of homes that are going to be there, but it's also the biggest concern that us as residents around that area is the traffic that is going to incur, that's going to be supposedly at this given time coming through Beverly Hills subdivision, through the Beverly Hills Road to 1560. Now, to give you just an idea of what my concern is, because we moved down from Colorado to San Antonio in 1991. We bought our property right about 1992 with the idea of building a home there. Now, even my wife and I said, because we were in the Oak Bluff subdivision, when we used to drive out to Beverly Hills, I mean, it was just beautiful. I mean, the traffic was very minimal. It was just great. There wasn't even a light, I think, at 1604 Bandera. So, in essence, what I'm trying to say is that we found that, and I'm not blaming O'Connor High School for being built there, but ever since that high school came in, the traffic got heavier, and it's because people were moving out in our area here. So the traffic increased. Therefore, coming out of our subdivision got more difficult as time went on. And now it gets to the point where, you know, if you have to hope and a prayer trying to get out of our subdivision, unless somebody gives us the right to come out, stops and allows us to get out. So therefore, with these new homes coming in and them having access to our road to get out of the subdivision, through our subdivision on 1560, it's going to be horrendous. You're going to see tons of accidents. And unfortunately, somebody doesn't lose their lives trying to jump out in front of that traffic. So that's my biggest concern, other than, you know, it's going to increase the crime within our area. You know, I haven't lived there as long as some of these other folks that have been there for 44 some odd years, but it's going to have an impact on our living conditions. I think some of the other members here will be addressing how we're concerned about property values within our area too. But I just want to make a statement that that's our biggest concern, is the traffic situation. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, just a little bit of additional information. The council cannot comment or discuss anything that you guys say, but we will take it into consideration. And anything that you would like to submit, if you have something, you would submit it to the city secretary, and then she will make sure the council gets it. Okay, next up is Joe Seward. Welcome.
Thank you. My name is Joe Seward, 11760 Sunset Ranch, Helotes, Texas. Just to reiterate what the last gentleman was talking about, I live on Sunset Ranch. Davis Ranch, the new subdivision that they're putting in, I don't have a problem with it, but they've got a middle school. It looks like we're adding an elementary school and a high school. Going to be adding a whole lot of homes back there. My challenge, just like with this gentleman, is they're wanting to connect that to Sunset Hill and Sunset Ranch, and then that passes right through Beverly Hills. That's going to be crazy because when we do come up to 1560 at our stop sign there, you've got Braun and 1560, you've got the light. That's not really even a block away, really, you know, it's feet away, but trying to make that left-hand turn will become horrific. I don't see us anytime soon making that, you know, you do the Google Earth thing, and could we make that into a four-way stop? Well, we'd have to buy somebody's property right there, you know, and I don't know that that would relieve things either. My big concern is my neighbor who brought it, Nancy Smith, who brought it to our attention, showed us some maps. And it looks like they're going to be having another road going into Gulm. So right now with Silver Canyon subdivision, it's got a nice traffic light on Gulm. Davis Ranch, right there at the middle school, has got a traffic light onto Gulm. And then if this goes, it looks like I drove over there, and there's a construction road. I don't know if that's the one that they're ultimately going to make into the road, but maybe they put another light in. I realize that it's going to be crazy over there, but for them to say that, oh, folks aren't going to use our road, I think that's not true. They're going to use our road, and it's going to be a nightmare. Progress is progress. I love living here in Helotes. We bought the property a little over 3 years ago from a lady who's been there, like lots of folks, you know, a long, long time. And I love living out there. And it's great that things are coming in, but I don't think connecting that to us. I do believe our property taxes within a couple of years will probably go sky high, but That's my biggest concern, is that road being connected to Sunset Hill. And I just wanted to express that, to just back up my fellow neighbors on that. And just make sure, I appreciated you being at that neighborhood meeting, and just to make sure that all you folks were aware that this kind of caught us by surprise. And from the first we heard about it to, they've already turned, I don't know, probably 70 to 100 acres. It's already been mulched. You know, it's not just trees have been taken down. They had the big tub grinder. It's already mulched down. It's gone, you know, and they busted through where the barbed wire fence was, and you can see the paint on the road where they expect to connect. And yeah, I'm probably not supposed to, but I went walking back there, and they made quick work out of all that as soon as they heard us.
That's your
Okay.
3 minutes. Sorry about the siren.
The siren went off?
She likes it. First time I heard it, I thought that we were being raided. Okay, next we have Ann Caraway. Ann, come on up. We appreciate you being here.
Let me see if this, testing.
You're good.
Good evening. My name is Ann Joseph Caraway. My address is 11240 Sunset Boulevard in Helotes. And I'm also here to talk about the new subdivision that is being developed. And for those of you who aren't familiar with that, 1560 runs like this. You have Beverly Hills, which is in Helotes proper, and then you have the Halpenny subdivision, which is a very small subdivision and is part of Helotes ETJ. Next, behind Halpenny subdivision, we always thought that was all Government Canyon, because there are actually signs there that say, you know, no trespassing, this is Government Canyon, yada, yada. So when all the construction started happening, we were a little nervous about that, and we find out that that is not Government Canyon. Now, we understand that they have to have 2 egress, entrance and exits, and they said they're doing their entrance and exit on Galm, but that the law requires them to do a second one. So they've made the 2 entrance and exit, the second one, go through Halpenny, through Beverly Hills, all going down Beverly Hills Drive. Okay, so this is our problem. What we need to know from the council and the mayor is, are you going to oppose this or not? Your first question is, do you have the authority to oppose it? And from the research I've done, I believe the answer is yes. Now, you have to make the decision whether you're going to oppose it or not, and that's why we're here, because of course we want you to oppose it. But we need to know where you stand, because if you do not oppose it, then we have to find other ways to fight this. There are 2, I know you're all familiar with the Texas Local Government Code, the section 212.003, because that was heavily litigated several years ago. The 2 things that gives, that the state gives us in the extension of rules to ETJs is power over the access to roads and to the water. Those are the 2 things. Now, I know there's a lot of litigation about vertical development in the ETJ and all that, but we know that it gives us those 2. And we have a city ordinance that also says, section 78-40, extraterritorial jurisdiction, application of provisions. And you'll read there that under the local government code, Helotes says that the provisions of this article apply to public roads within the city's extraterritorial jurisdiction and access to public roads within the ETJ. So we're asking you to look at that and let us know where you're going to stand on this, because we do intend to fight it, and we do need to know where we stand. Now, we went to the county meeting. I have 14 seconds. And I said, they have the interlocal agreement, which I believe just, pertains to plats and subdivisions. Halpenny has already been platted and divided. Oh, well, I have some more to say, but
Sorry.
it's knocked me out.
Appreciate
Okay,
it.
thank you.
And I commend you on doing your studying. Nancy Smith.
My name is Nancy Smith, and I live at 11745 Sunset Ranch. I really don't have any prepared words for you tonight. This is, I feel like we were totally blindsided by this development, and it has just broken our hearts. This, I tried for weeks and weeks and weeks to try to get information on when they were going to develop and what they were doing. I talked to people in Bear County Development. I called, I emailed, they would not respond to me. And then the next thing I knew, they had clear-cut this land. This land joins onto Government Canyon, where I mean, there are coyotes out there, there's wild hogs out there, there's the golden cheek warbler is out there. There's, you know, they bought the land. They get to do whatever they want. I counted on Bear County. I counted on them to protect the wildlife, the wild areas in the county. Do you know on their website, it says, let us help you develop your project. No matter how small it is, no matter how big it is, let us help you develop it. You know, we're never gonna get those habitats back. We're never gonna get the wildlife back. We're so lucky to have Government Canyon. But this is what development is doing. The aquifer, every summer, it's, oh, we've got a drought, everybody don't water your lawns, we've got problems with water, but it's, let's develop over it. And that's my concern. Now, I can't do anything about that. They didn't give me any time to do anything about that. I haven't gotten all my research done. But I do know that this road, putting the road through, the developer has to put his own roads through. He doesn't get to use Helotes roads. You've paid for those. I've paid for my road. He doesn't get to do that. It's his development. He needs to put his roads in. He needs to find out the egress. That's a flood zone that he's building those houses in. He's got to figure out how to get those people out and not turn to me and say, you're the one who's in the wrong because you won't let them go on your streets. This is really, really, it's such a travesty. To me, the biggest travesty is what they've done to the nature out there, and just to develop, and they're developing Bear County just into the ground. And it really is just a shame. I just think it's such a shame. But this is personal to me now because I bought this piece of property with this house that was falling down. My husband and I bought it 4 years ago. We put our heart and soul into that place. And everybody in here did the same thing. You do that with your house. You give everything you've got to that house. That's for your safety of your family. We want that safety for our families too.
Sorry. Okay, appreciate it, Nancy. Okay, next up, Chris Saldivar? Saldivar. Welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening. My name is Chris Saldivar. I live on 11378 Wickwild, and I'm here to advocate the opposition for that easeway through our neighborhood. And I'm begging you, really guys, sincerely, looking to you guys for help to really listen to what these people are saying. I'm one of the newbies. I've only been there 15 years. Some of these people have been there decades. And when my wife and I were looking for property, we searched for 6 months. We looked everywhere in Helotes, when Helotes was country, when it was. So we bought this property. We were like, this is it. This is our retirement home. This is our last house. Our kids can ride their bikes in the street without having to worry about getting run over. No speeders, everyone waves. We still wave in our neighborhood. I know that's an old school thing, but we still do it, and I love it. I don't want that to change. I'm talking to you guys. I'm really just want you guys to understand that, in my opinion, our neighborhood is the essence of Helotes. It's one of the neighborhoods that still has that country feel to it. You know, yeah, we don't have an HOA, and we might have a couple of things out in the front yard or whatever, but we don't care. As long as the traffic is calm, crime is down, we don't want our Beverly Hills Road to become a highway. My worst fear is 4 lanes, double yellow stripes. I would probably be sick to my stomach if that ever happened. We just don't need any more increased traffic. We all bought these properties for the same exact reason. And we wanted the serenity, the beauty, the nature. Yeah, we let our trees and bushes grow. We sometimes don't mow our grass sometimes because we like that type of the nature. And let's face it, we've lived in the area 20 years, and Helotes has changed. Helotes, you know, when I was a kid, my mother used to take me to Floors, and we'd kind of hang around that area, listen to music when I was a little boy, and I always wanted to live in this area. Here I am, lucky enough to be able to afford to live in this neighborhood, and it's changing. And I don't want to, I mean, I understand the word progress, but by definition, whose definition of progress are we talking about? And sometimes progress is not paving more and concrete and buildings and more traffic. Sometimes not. To me, that's not progress. So I'm here today hoping, begging you guys to really take a look at it. Drive through the neighborhood. Our neighborhood is not like the other neighborhoods. It's really not. It's a different way of life. It's a different kind of living. Drive through the neighborhood, and you tell me if you think you should have a big old highway down the middle of splitting our neighborhood really right in half. And I hope that you do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Just as a point of information, so you'll see where we're coming from without discussing this, more or less just giving you some facts. I attended the meeting, as Nancy said, was it last week or week before? Yeah, I think it was last week. And Councilmember Massey and Councilmember Holmes were also there. And this caught us by surprise too, mainly because it went through San Antonio and Bexar County, and neither one of them let us know what was going on. I did go out there and drive down Gulm Road to Government Canyon, and I saw an entrance there, but I don't know if that's part of this development or not. And I did drive Sunset Hill and Sunset Ranch and took some pictures. But as I told you at that meeting, we will, to the extent that we can legally and financially. And of course, I stipulated that it would be upon council's approval that we would pursue this. But I also told you that we would put together an informational meeting here at City Hall with Bexar County. And then in talking to Bexar County, we found out that they lacked a lot of information that we were requesting. And Marion Mendoza, our city administrator here, is coordinating this meeting. So what we're working on now is to not only have Bexar County here, but have the city of San Antonio and Pulte Homes to provide information, and we will let you guys know when that's going to be. And it'll be in an evening so more people can attend. And if it looks like there's going to be an overflow crowd, we can move it to the fire station in the bays. But we do want to let Bexar County, San Antonio, and Pulte Homes know that they're going to probably have a fight on their hands if they try and go through your subdivision and then on into Beverly Hills. That's really the extent of where we are now. And we sent Nancy an email with that detail. So any questions that you have, you can go to Nancy and she can get with Marion, and we'll let you know what we're finding out. But something like this, we really need to have all the information we possibly can so our attorneys can look at it and give us their opinion, and then we can go forward from there. So don't think that we're ignoring this. It's as important to us as it is to you. My wife and I moved our family here on Leap Day, February 29th, 1980. So we just marked our 40th anniversary of being in the Helotes area. So it is personal to me as much as it is to you guys. And as I mentioned to you, we lived for 30 plus years in Ranch Acres with a 60-acre ranch behind us, which is now Hearthstone subdivision. And we didn't know that was coming in until the streets were being cleared. So I can appreciate the emotion that you have, but some things you can stop, some things you can't. And at this point, we have no idea, but we are pursuing it, and we are going to get in there and do everything we can to help you and help the city of Helotes. And that's about all I have to say on it. Okay. And again, we appreciate y'all being here tonight and letting us know your thoughts. And you don't need to beg. We're going to do what we need to do. Thank you. You bet. Okay, next up is our consent agenda. And for those of you who have never been to a council meeting, a consent agenda is just a grouping together of several agenda items that the staff and I consider to be fairly routine city business. And we're looking for a motion and a second to approve these multiple items. Tonight it's items 4 through 6. Of course, any council member can ask a question. If we can answer that question briefly, we'll allow the question. Otherwise, they'll ask to have that item pulled for further discussion later in the agenda. So I would ask now, are there any items 4 through 6 that a council member has a question on or would like to request that it's pulled? Nothing? No requests for discussion, then I would entertain a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 4 through 6.
Mayor, make a motion, we approve consent agenda items 4 through 6.
We have a motion from Baez. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
A second from Massey. So we have a motion from Baez, a second from Massey, no discussion required. So we'll call the question. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 4 through 6, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. That moves us on to item number 7. This is discussion of and action on a request by Versatera Development for a change in zoning from overlay district B3 to single-family residential district R1, generally located behind 12510 Bandera Road. And for just pinpointing a little better for you, this is the area behind Kentucky Fried Chicken and abuts on the other side to Cedar Springs. So if we can have a motion. Well, I would like to say that the developer, early on, but after we scheduled the public hearing, realized he wouldn't be able to attend tonight. So he did ask that we ask you guys to consider postponing this to the meeting for March 26th. But we felt like if you want to discuss it, to give us an idea of any questions you had, that way we can address those with the developer before it would come back as unfinished business on the 26th. So if that's acceptable to you guys, we'll go in that vein. But we did pretty well assure him that there shouldn't be a problem with postponing it so that he and his engineers could be here. Okay? So we could have a motion and discussion, a motion and a second to discuss, and then hopefully postpone, if you guys are okay with not taking action tonight.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion, we discuss and take action on 7.
Okay, we have a motion from Baez. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Blue. Okay, Bert, it's your motion, so you're up.
Before I make the motion to, well, I was thinking about making a motion to, what'd you say, postpone it. All we're doing is just changing the zoning. Why does he have to be here for that?
In case you guys had any questions, and we're going to refuse it, I'm assuming. Yep.
Okay.
I would guess that if it looks like you guys are going to approve it and you want to take that action, he wouldn't object to that, but we will be bringing a development agreement to you on March 26th, and that way it would be a way that you could do the zoning and the development agreement. But if you want to approve the zoning tonight, that's certainly up to you.
Trying to think if that's what he wants to do, I guess I'll go ahead and be approved. I'll go ahead and make the motion to postpone it
Till March 26th?
till March 26th, yeah.
Okay, are you okay with that? We'll still go ahead with discussion, but, okay. Do you have any comments?
I'm okay with it. I was okay with the
Yeah,
item as well.
So was I.
You were what?
I was okay with just approving it, but if he wants to postpone it, we'll do it.
I don't think he would object, because he'll be here for the development agreement, and that's his main concern. So it's up to you guys. Postponing is fine.
Okay.
Any discussion, so that we'll have any questions for him?
Mr.
Nothing?
Mayor, my turn?
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, I'm concerned about the ingress egress into that property between the two businesses. I don't know, I didn't go look to see how wide that was, but I guess my concern is people walking from the fried chicken restaurant across to the strip center. I don't know what protection they would have coming out of those two buildings, crossing a street where I think it's 22 homes are being proposed. And that equates to probably 50, 60, 100 cars a day coming through there. My only concern is what are we going to do to protect citizens and pedestrians making across?
Keep in mind, the traffic impact analysis was for that entire area. which was to be commercially developed. So there was already a consideration for traffic if that was fully commercial back there. But we can certainly have that information for you on the 26th.
Sounds good.
Nothing else? Paul?
You know, my initial knee-jerk reaction was pretty negative, but kind of the more I thought about the position of the property to the road, that, you know, that might be a decent use of property, and if that's what the developer wants, I'm okay, especially since it backs up to another residential neighborhood. As long as they have some good buffers, fencing, and then I guess the setbacks. That was the only thing I was concerned. I didn't see anything about setbacks, but I assume that would just be the
That'll be
same
in-
setbacks that would be for.
That'll be in the
residential.
development agreement next meeting.
Well, then we can talk about it then.
It's not on your agenda, any request form here, but want to let you know that a residential development or a single-family dwelling can be built in a B3 overlay. And our concern was, in talking to the developer, that if they went ahead with it still being B3 and did a residential development, which they could do, that there's a chance that someone could turn a home into a business. And then we'd have a problem with the people that are living back there in homes having a business in their area. So we suggested to him that we just go ahead and do an R1, and that would prevent that business from going in that might be available to be approved through a B3 overlay. And so that's why he agreed to go ahead and ask for rezoning to an R1 to help us be able to prevent that, because we would not be able to enforce it through deed restrictions. Does that make sense? Okay. Cynthia, anything?
Well, that's good to know.
Yes.
That's really good to know. There's no other egress other than just going to Bandera Road?
Right.
And there does not need to be, I mean, is there any kind of stipulation that, because there's not that many, there's 22 houses, there's not that many.
It's not enough to require secondary.
Okay. The other thing is, I know that they sent the letters out to the neighbors, 200 feet, and we didn't receive any reply at all, nothing?
No.
we did not.
Okay, so I'm assuming that means they're okay with it, and they probably are.
Well, and no one came tonight.
Yeah, so, yeah, okay. And I know Planning and Zoning approved it unanimously, and they're usually pretty sticklers for things like this, so.
I think that they're just guessing that the people around there are satisfied with 22 homes going in rather than take a chance on something that they don't want in a commercial development. That's probably,
Yeah.
probably what they're looking
Yeah,
at.
I agree. Okay.
Okay, so traffic impact is the only concern, and then we'll, you want something?
Well, I was waiting
Okay.
my turn.
So the motion is, and the second, assuming there's no more discussion
Well, yeah, it
required?
was the discussion, but you skipped us when we said we agreed to postpone, but then you went to the
No,
discussion.
I asked you if you had
Okay,
anything you
well, I
wanted to
thought you
say.
pointed at him, and he went on, so.
Okay.
I would like to make a few comments, if I may, right?
You betcha.
So, I was at the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting, and there were a number of discussions there that I thought were very good. And I do live within the 200 feet of this personally, so I got one of those letters. I spoke with about 5 of my neighbors on my street and the neighboring street, and none of them had a problem, for the exact reason that the last time they got a letter, it was to see Cooter Browns go in there in a 2-acre parking lot with lights 24/7 in the backyard, and they thought this was considerably better than that would be. The second thing is, if you take a look at the way this is depicted, the other situation is that if you go up to the very top, which is where the Cedar Springs residential neighborhood, if you look at the other picture that's a couple pages down, you'll see that the vast majority of trees that are on that property, and you can't quite see it, are along that back fence line. And so because that would essentially become people's backyards, the most of the trees that are within that area that are savable will be saved. And that was, to me, very important as well. The other question that came up was the issue of drainage. That property was originally drained, and on the right-hand side there, you can't quite see it very well on this, but you'll see just above and to the right of that is a detention pond that was created large enough to accommodate the rest of that property being paved because it was anticipated to be commercial. So with the majority of that location being left as grass and/or yards, as opposed to just a paved parking lot, it's going to be easily able to handle that. Again, that was important to me because my lot is way up on the right-hand side there, the little pie-shaped one there. And so there is a 12-foot drainage ditch that runs between those two properties, and I wanted to be sure that the water didn't go in the wrong direction and end up going through the neighborhood as opposed to the other. The question about the ingress and egress, and since it brought up, I thought I'd mention it. If you kind of scroll back down again and a little bit to the left, you'll notice that the developer identified that the first little cul-de-sac that goes off to the left does not end at a property line, which would give them the opportunity eventually to allow that to exit onto a future developed property. Right now, it's vacant, but if it were to be necessary, they could put a chain there and make that an emergency. But apparently, our guidelines and the fire marshal only require a secondary if there's 30 or more properties. The next question was about the ingress and egress, and right now, I think that the traffic on that ingress and egress would be considerably less with 22 houses than it would have been with a very large subdivision, a large commercial development. Also, the ingress and egress will be at a different time of day. The one thing that will probably come back in the development agreement later on that I thought of, and I just put this out there for thought, is that that neighborhood's going to want an entrance sign, and the only place they're going to be able to put that is in the small median right up by Bandera Road. And so I'm guessing that we'll probably see something about that when they come back. with the
March
development agreement.
26th, yeah.
So, but given all of that information, I'm in favor of it. I don't have a problem with postponing it because I'd like to be able to see the rest of the development agreement and all that before we give, the last thing I would want to do is to change the zoning.
Yeah.
Then the development agreement is unacceptable, but now we've already changed the zoning. And then that wouldn't be a really good experience for anybody involved. So I think doing them on the same night, once we can see the other part, I think is very wise. Those were my comments. Thank you.
I did ask you if you wanted to say
Well, I
something.
thought you were pointing it out.
Don't lay it on me.
Okay.
And also, Bert, it was your motion, so did you want to?
Well, just, my concern is the setbacks on these. Where are they going to be? 5-foot setbacks, or we'll discuss that at the
That'll be
next
in the
meeting?
development agreement,
Yeah.
but keep in mind, this is the zoning issue.
Right,
Had
I
nothing to do
understand
with
that.
that
But that's,
other.
I mean,
So
when we
it'll
get
be
to
two
that
separate
point, that's
things.
going to be my concern, is what the setbacks are.
Yeah.
So, okay, I'll make a motion that we postpone agenda item number 7 until the March 26th meeting.
You already did.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Sorry, didn't know that.
Then
And we
already
have
seconded again.
that second.
Okay.
So is there any other discussion? Otherwise, we'll bring this back as unfinished business on the 26th. So all in favor of postponing this item to March 26th, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Okay, it'll come back then. Next meeting. Up on number 8, discussion of an action on a request by Debbie Janes for approval of a wall sign for Cheetalish, a retail clothing store located at 14436 Old Bandera Road. And so again, if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item 8.
Have a motion from Fredericks. Do we have a second?
Second?
Second from Holmes. So Paul, it's your motion. You're up.
I'm okay with the signs. They're not, I think they're okay for what they want to do and where they want to put them, so I don't have an issue with them. I agree with P and Z.
Okay. Alan?
I have no question about it.
Alex?
I'm fine, thank you, sir.
Bert?
Well, P and Z made a recommendation to make it more earth tones, but we can only recommend that. We can't really make them do that, right?
Yeah. That was the previous approval, I think, where it was a brighter yellow and it was muted down. I think this is the muted
Oh,
version.
okay, so they have muted it down. Okay, no, I'm good.
Cynthia, anything?
Yeah, I'm fine with that.
Okay. No other discussion? And we'll call the question. All in favor of approving the sign, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Number 9, discussion of an action on a request by Facility Solutions Group for approval of a variance authorizing the size and height increase on an existing monument sign for Kentucky Fried Chicken located at 12474 Bandera Road. So if we can have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this, please.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 9 as written.
Okay, we have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Frederick. So Cynthia, you're up.
Well, it is terribly unfortunate that that big box is right in front of that sign. Was that box there before they put the sign up?
As far as we know, yes.
Okay, well, why did they put the sign there? Why couldn't they moved it to the front part? I mean, all they have to do is move the sign. They don't have to enlarge it, in my opinion. I'm very much against the variance, just to let you know.
Okay, if you look, just if I can interject, there's 3 photos in there, 1, 2, and 3. These are some photos that I took, and I just looked at it because I couldn't see why they would want to go up with a multi-tenant height sign. But if you look at picture number 2 and 3, you see the end of the box there with that vertical pipe. And then you look in number 3, the space between that pipe and the back of the curb is 14 and a half feet, and their sign is only 10 feet. So I would suggest that the other alternate they would look at, if they're disturbed by what they have, is to move the sign from where it is, keep it a monument sign, the same sign, but just put it in that space between that pipe and the curb, and they'd still have a couple of feet clearance at each end, and that would give them plenty of visibility from the street. So that's just a thought.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay, Paul, it's your second, so
It's my understanding that they put the sign up after the box.
that appears to be the case, yeah.
And they knew that the box was going to be, or was at least proposed to be there, so I do not agree. I will not be voting for the variance.
Okay, Alan?
I don't have any comments.
Huh?
I don't have any comments.
Okay. Alex?
Yeah, I completely agree with planning and zoning. I agree with the comments here tonight. I think that just because that box is there to allow them to have a 15-foot tall sign is ridiculous. The other thing is that box was probably, I mean, it's their electrical box. They could probably make it smaller or shorter or move it somehow. That wouldn't be it. But certainly just allowing a variance to the sign would only incur the same request for everybody else up and down the road, which I think is unacceptable. The other thing that when this developer came to us, we talked to them about a multi-tenant sign for their location, which would include the wash tub, the KFC, and the other places, and they said, no, they all wanted individual signs, and so now they complied with the sign code. And I don't think we should give them that part when there are clearly other options. The representative of the company that was at Planning and Zoning had absolutely no idea. He only represented the sign company. He didn't have anything to say about, really anything about what was going on there. So I think we should deny the request.
Bert?
I agree, we should allow it.
That's it? Yep. Cynthia, any follow-up?
No, I mean, I just, I just think it's so silly that they asked. I mean, we have a sign ordinance, and, I mean, there's things they can do to fix this of their own doing. Again, it's their own doing. And so, no, I'm definitely against it, so.
Paul, anything else?
No, sir.
Nothing else from you guys? Okay, then we'll call the question. A yes vote would be to approve the variance, and no vote would be to deny the variance. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No. Let me say again. A yes vote or an aye vote
sorry.
would be to
I'm sorry.
approve the variance,
I was looking.
unless you've changed your mind in the last 30
No,
seconds.
no, I haven't.
And a no vote
I'm sorry.
would deny it.
Okay.
So again, all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say no.
No.
Motion is denied, or the request is denied. Okay, we go to number 10, discussion of and action on a request by Nucleos Architecture for approval of a conceptual design plan for Little Cherub Child Care Center located at 12840 North FM 1560. And for those of you that have not been made aware of where this is, it's next to the post office. It's the old car wash. And this outfit's proposing to build a child care center right in there. They'll use the foundation, existing foundation for the car wash, but they'll take the car wash down to build their building. So do we have a motion and a second to discuss and take action on this?
Mayor, make a motion, we discuss, take action on 10.
We have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
I'll second it, Mayor.
Second from Blue. Okay, Bert, your motion, you're up first.
Okay. They're compliant on all, they don't need a variance for anything on this. And also, I agree with P and Z's recommendation to approve this. And I also agree with P and Z's recommendation to not allow the 4 lights in, for the monument sign.
Yeah, those have been removed, and it's going to be interior lighting.
They've already taken that out? Oh,
Yeah,
they-
it was on,
Actually, we're gonna take it out initially.
yeah,
oh, okay,
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
and that was noted on the sketch, I believe, I saw.
Okay. Okay. Actually, I think it's a good addition for the city to have a child care center there.
Okay. Alex?
Thank you, Mayor. I completely agree. I think it's a good development. It doesn't add anything. The only question that came up at the time, which nobody seemed to know the answer, and I don't know whether or not they added anything, so I asked this question to our city administrator. If you look at the layout of the property and you know where the Panther Car Wash is right now, you'll note that the front half of the property is actually right now just a kind of a low-lying, bare grassy area, and there was some question at the meeting as to whether or not there were caves or some protected something or other, or something that would prevent or allow future development of that front part of the property. Has anything further been identified?
They were saying at the time, at the meeting, that they can't develop on that property at this time because of, and I have to re-look at the minutes, but they did identify that it can't be developed at this time. And I want to say it's because of the way the entrance drive came in and something about that development. I have to look at my notes. I have to re-look at the video, but the developer did say something on that.
And
Oh, there
there's,
he is.
there's a
Sorry.
text dot setback in there somewhere.
Right, there is a
That's
text dot
setback.
setback, but I thought I heard him say they were appealing to text dot to waive some of that setback, and that's why I brought it up.
So, Josué Burguete with Nucleus
Who are you?
Architecture.
Hold on, he's got a.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Who are you?
Josué Burguete with Nucleus Architecture.
Okay. Tell us again and tell us who you represent. Are you here to answer some questions?
I am.
Well, next time, let us know,
So,
rather than just appearing. Okay,
so the reason that cannot be developed is because there is a text dot drainage easement over that portion of the property.
that's what I remember now, yeah.
There is the current owner is looking to have that vacated. They're in the process of vacating that, but even then, we would still need to do whatever car studies are required to be able to develop that in the future if the owner decides to develop it. Right now, we don't have any plans to do so. It's just, if he ever decides to, that easement needs to be vacated anyway, and then any kind of studies need to be provided at that time.
Yeah, and that would have to come back to council and P and Z, whatever they would do. So tell us again your name and who you represent?
Josué Burguete, Nucleus Architecture.
Okay, got it.
So thank you for allowing that answer.
You bet.
I completely agree, and I want to echo what Planning and Zoning said, that the presentation was excellent and well-prepared, a lot better than many they see, so thank you.
And they were very easy to work with on the pre-development meeting or the development meeting. They put more parking in from the original meeting that we had and did some other things, and they're very accommodating. So, and you saw the pictures of the stone they're going to use and that kind of stuff. So they gave a really nice package. Alan, anything?
Did I hear you say that they're going to use the existing foundation or slab for the parking lot or for the building?
For the building. That's their plan.
I assume they've done engineering studies to make sure it's adequate to support a building?
Not really our concern, but yes, they have.
All right, no further questions.
Okay. Cynthia?
So my understanding then is the front part of it that y'all were discussing cannot be developed because of the setback. The setback's too.
At this point in time, if they can,
So it's gonna be landscaped, or, I mean, I can't remember how much concrete or how much asphalt or concrete is there. 'Cause
not much.
Not much.
And it won't affect the impervious cover going in.
Yeah.
Won't really affect anything. And they'll still have to do a stormwater management plan.
Okay. It looks like a nice building.
And the note on these, the light fixtures being eliminated is on this plan with the monument sign. Shows lighting fixtures to be removed.
Yeah.
Anything else, Cynthia? Paul?
No, I think it's a nice
Nothing from you?
development.
Bert, any follow-up? Alex, anything from you?
No, sir, thank you.
You good?
I'm good.
Okay. Well, then a yes vote will be to approve the conceptual plan, which includes the site plan, the building design, the exterior lighting, and the monument sign. So we're clear on that? Okay. Now we'll call the question then. All in favor of approving those 4 items as part of the conceptual plan, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. So you're good to go. You bet. And by golly, that brings us to the end of our agenda. So if we have no objections from any member of the council, I will adjourn the meeting. No objections being heard. We're adjourned at 7:50.